All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. It's going to be below the video if you are on a mobile device. If you are on like a laptop computer or something like that, it's going to be to the right of the video. Let me get to my screen. All right. Probably need to refresh this. I got to get to my question screen here so I can see all your all's questions. All right, so if you got your questions, go ahead and post them below the video or to the right of the video, depending on your device. I always start with questions that were asked up to an hour before, so it looks like I'll be starting here with Byron H. So yeah, if you got your questions, go ahead and post them. If you post your question more than an hour ago, like yesterday or over the weekend, and you're here to see your question get answered, just copy and paste your question in there or re-ask your question. The reason why I do that is I just want to make sure that I'm answering questions for people who I think are actually here waiting to see their question get answered. So if you post your question yesterday, odds are you're not here. So anyway, Byron H says, I'm still having trouble with proper sequence to start the downswing. Any drills to help correct this? Yeah, the step drill is really the best drill to help with this. The biggest reason why I see people struggle with getting that downswing sequence right is because they don't really get their momentum going to their lead side soon enough. They wait until the arms are already kind of starting down and getting in front of their body, and it's kind of a false weight shift. It's really your arms that are bringing your body forward, your momentum forward, instead of your body going forward and then bringing the arms and everything through. So the step drill is really the best drill for this. And in this drill, basically what you're doing, I won't be able to demonstrate it fully in here, but I'll send you to a video where you can go find it. Basically what you're doing is you're starting with your feet together. And then as soon as you start this backswing, you're going to be starting to step forward. Now we'll go over a main mistake that I see of people do with this drill. And that's what they'll do is that they'll start stepping forward like this, right? They'll keep all their weight and everything still on this trail foot, and then they'll get up to the top of the swing the arms, and have the momentum come through. It's really, you're just kind of doing the same thing that you were doing before. I call this dipping the toes in the water, where you just kind of go like this, and you don't actually get your momentum going forward. I want you to feel like your belly button, pretend like this is your center of mass. It's actually probably pretty close to your belly button. But pretend like this is your center of mass, and you're trying to keep your center of mass between your feet, right? So as my foot goes that way, my center of mass needs to go with it. It needs to stay right in the middle between that. And that's forcing me to get my momentum going forward. If I just dip my toes in the water, well, now the center of my stance is here, but my belly button's right here still. I need my belly button to be moving with that. So I want you to feel like you're diving into the water. You're jumping in the water instead of just kind of dipping the toes in. I want you to be diving in to where if your foot came down, you would fall in the water. Whereas like this, I can still keep my balance over my trail side. So you need to force yourself to get your momentum going to your lead side, and that step drill is a really good drill for that. Now we have several videos on the website where Clay demonstrates this step drill. It's in the 20-minute distance fix. It's in several videos, but if you just want to find, there's a great way to find a video that's probably my favorite one where you demonstrate this. And I think the video is just called How to Start the Downswing. So if you search the word downswing, you'll be able to find this video. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a little search box there. If you search downswing, it'll come up with some search results. It's the video. It's called, I believe it's BR014 is the number on it. But it's How to Start the Downswing. It's got some yellow lettering in the thumbnail. Clay goes over the step drill fully in that video. If you're on a mobile device and you want to find that search function, it's also very easy to find. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a little icon. It's 3 horizontal lines. If you select that, that will expand a menu. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that menu, you'll find the search box. Search one word downswing. It should be like the 5th result or something like that when the results come up. All right, so let me, didn't put my phone on do not disturb. There we go. All right, so moving on here. Matthew W. says, I've been told that at last parallel, the butt of the club should point to the target before whipping it through. Do you agree? And if so, any tips to get recommended getting into this position correctly? Yeah, so basically what he's talking about, I assume what he's talking about is last parallel with the club. So last parallel with the club is going to be about right here in the swing. And typically when you see good players, typically at last parallel with the club, the hands are about in front of the trail thigh. And yeah, the club is going to be pointed relatively toward the target. Now, it really depends on what kind of shot you're hitting, right? So if you imagine, if I'm just hitting a dead straight shot or trying to hit a dead straight shot, if I'm trying to swing perfectly on plane, yes, the club would, in general, be pointed pretty much toward the target. But let's say I was trying to hit a draw. I'm trying to swing in to out a little bit. If that was the case, my club would probably be pointing, if I'm a right-handed golfer, right of the target, right? It'd be kind of inside my hands. I'd be coming in like that. Maybe if I was hitting a fade, the club would be, the butt end of the club would be pointing left of the target, and that's going to help me to swing a little bit more out to in. So it really depends on what actual kind of shot you're trying to hit. But generally with amateur players, I see this first parallel position happening about right here, right? So the hands have not got to the thigh yet. And then by the time the hands get to the thigh, we're like this, we're already releasing the club, right? And we're coming into impact, adding some loft, losing some compression and things like that. So if you're in a situation where you are doing that, you're losing that, you're gonna want to work through. There's probably 3 sections. Really depends on exactly what's going on in your swing, but I can tell you what to look for. So if you look at your swing and you see from the very, very beginning of the downswing, it's casting. This angle between your lead arm and the shaft is getting larger at the very, very beginning of the swing, right? The downswing. If you're seeing that, you're going to want to work on our top speed lag course, because that's going to help you to get this angle sharpening up. So that way you can get into this kind of position right here. Now, let's say you are getting this kind of position. You're getting this angle. It's actually sharpening up. You're getting some lag. But then later on in the swing, you end up releasing it a little bit too early. That's going to be 2 sections there that are going to help you with that. One is our straight line release course. If we're getting this club to release out in front about 45 degrees, and when I say the release, I'm talking when the club is splitting the forearms here after contact, or we prefer it to be after contact. When I'm coming in, the club, you can see there it's in line with my lead arm, and now it's splitting my arms right here, and now it's in line with my trail arm. We want that to be happening about 45 degrees out in front. That's about where we want it. So if I go to that position and then I rewind it to impact, you can see I have some good forward shaft lean. And if I rewind it to that first parallel position that he's talking about, you can see my hands are in front of my trail thigh. So you can see how that all kind of ends up happening there as you're coming through. So that's going to be the straight line release course. It's the last piece of the Top Speed Golf system that you'll want to work through. Now, the other piece that may help you with this as well is the move. A lot of times when people release the club early, it's because the club is not in a good position in the start of the transition, right? What we see the best players do is we see them shallow the club out, and we also see them square the face earlier as they're starting down. Pretty much all the best players in the world right now are doing this. If you look at Dustin Johnson, Morikawa, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy, all of these players are doing what we call the move. So that, again, that's where we're shallowing out the club. And what that means is just getting the club on plane sooner in the start of the downswing, and then squaring this face earlier in the swing. And that's coming from twisting. If you look at Dustin Johnson, like he's like this at the top of the swing. Morikawa, you're seeing the same thing. Jon Rahm, same thing. You're seeing a lot of these wrist positions now in the best players in the world, and that's what the move is. That's what we're trying to get you to do. We're trying to get you to square that face up earlier in the swing, so that way you don't have to do it late, and your swing isn't going to be so dependent on timing to be consistent with it. So that's what the move is just getting the club on plane sooner and the club squared up sooner, so that way we can stay in our posture and rotate. If I have this club steep, Now, at some point in this swing, I'm going to have to stand up, most likely, to get this club back on plane, so that way I don't hit it over the top swing or something like that. If I stay like this and I keep on going, I'm going to be over the top. So if I go like this and I get steep, I've got to stand up later in the swing. When I stand up, I got to flip and release that club early, right? Just like if I have this face open, if I have this, maybe I do shallow it out nicely, but I come down, this face is open. Well, I'm going to have to do something to square this face up at the end. And most likely, most people's natural reaction is to release the club early. When you release the club early and really roll the hands hard, that's a means of closing the face or squaring the face. So that's what a lot of people do to get that club face squared up. So that's another piece that may help you with that. So if you're interested in these pieces, or you need to work on that straight line release, I'd recommend working through the lag course if you need to, the straight line release course, or the move course. You just kind of have to look at your swing and see exactly what's going on. If you're coming down steep, then the move course might be the best course for you. If you're getting lag and you're coming down steep, if you're not getting any lag, you're probably going to want to work on the lag course first. If you're getting lag and you're not coming down steep, you're probably going to want to work on the straight line release. You just got to look at your swing on video to see exactly what you need to work on. Now, I know that's not easy to do, especially if you haven't looked at your swing on video very much before. But I strongly encourage you to if you're really serious about getting better and improving your golf game, I'd recommend looking at your swing on video frequently. But if it's still it's a little bit of a daunting task, which I can completely understand. We do offer unlimited swing reviews, and this is a program that we have where you can actually send an instructor a video of your swing, and I can tell you exactly what you need to work on, what you need to do, give you a plan to help you get better. So if you're interested in that, all you have to do is click Get a Review at the top of the screen there, and that'll take you to the swing review page. If you see a spot available, go ahead and grab it and let's get started. But if you don't, because swing reviews are high demand, so we don't always have spots available. If you're interested, make sure that you join the waiting list. What the waiting list does is it puts you on a list of people who will get notified whenever we open up spots. So we just send out an email to everyone that's on the waiting list, and that's first come, first served to those people. But if you don't join that waiting list, you may never get that email, right? You just have to kind of hope to get lucky and find a spot there, which you might if you go there right now. So we got 3 instructors right now doing swing reviews. So make sure you join the waiting list if you don't see a spot, so that way you can get notified in the future. All right. So James P says, my driver impact is really good since starting a few weeks ago. I'm topping or pulling my iron shots. What drill can I do to improve my iron striking? So if you're topping and pulling, it's most likely from coming over the top, right? So a pull is caused by my path going to the left and my face also kind of being in that same direction. So when I say path, I'm talking about the direction my club head is moving through impact, the in to out, out to in. If you've ever heard people talk about that, that's what they're talking about, is their club path, right? So if you're pulling, that means that your club path is out to in. It's moving out to in through impact, and then your face is lined up with that path, meaning that your face is in the same direction that your path is going. So if that's happening, that's where the pulls are coming in. Where the tops are likely happening is when you do swing more over the top like this, when you swing more to the left, that moves the low point of your swing more forward, right? So basically your low point is where the club comes down, reaches its lowest point, and then works back up, right? So when your low point is more forward, you're going to be more susceptible to tops for a couple of reasons. Maybe you just kind of chop down into the golf ball, and that's where the tops come from. Or a lot of times what people will do when they come over the top, they'll compensate by trying to hang back, right? So they'll swing over the top, they'll hang back, and then the club will actually bottom out before the ball, right? Like here, if my fist is the golf ball, the club will bottom out before and then work up and hit the upper equator of the ball, resulting in a top. So there's two ways that kind of toss can be going on there. So what I'd recommend doing is getting your path to be more into out. You need to get this path working more from the inside. So I would recommend working on our Never Slice Again course, because that's going to help you get your low point more forward where it should be. It's also going to help you to start swinging more from the inside. I know that you may not be slicing, but a pull and a slice are really a product of the same issue. The issue is your path is too much to the left, too much out to in. So that course is all about making that difference or changing that path to be more from the inside. The only difference between a slice and a pull is just the direction the club face is pointing. On a pull, your face is in the direction of your path. On a slice, your face is open to the path. So maybe your face is square to the target, but your path is to the left. If that happens, it's going to result in a slice. And that course is all about getting your path to work from the inside. You may not need to pay attention as much to what Clay talks about for closing the face, since you're already lining your face up with the path. But you're going to want to really pay attention to getting that club to work into out as much as you can. And most likely that will immensely improve your ball striking quite a bit. We can get away with this a little bit with a driver. It's still obviously not optimal with a driver, but since there's no ground contact with a driver, right? So the ball is sitting up on a tee. I can have the club bottom out 10 inches behind the ball or right at the golf ball, and I can still hit a good golf shot. Whereas with an iron shot, something that we hit off the turf, that ground contact has to be much more precise in order for me to hit a good shot. It has to be at or after the golf ball in order for me to hit a good shot. So, or a little bit after the golf ball. So there's not as much margin for error there, which might be why you're doing better with the driver versus iron. And maybe you may not be swinging over the top with the driver. You might be, you may not be. It's not, it can be a little, sometimes people do different things with different clubs because, with the driver versus other clubs, because the intent is different. And then also it's a longer club. So the forces and things are a little bit different, which could be causing a little bit of differences there, but most likely it's probably going to be pretty close to the same thing. But I'd check out that Never Slice Again course. To get to that course, click the house icon, go to the homepage, scroll down the homepage. You'll see a list of all the courses there. Select the Never Slice Again course and get started on the drills. So Braden T says, I'm sick of golf. I chunk it. I chunk hit it thin, hook the ball, try to correct it, and then it blocks to the left when everything goes right. I had a beautiful 5-yard draw, but not enough distance for my body type. I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. I had 7 iron, 160, 175. Perfect. Never hit driver, but for some reason I can hit a 3-wood regular 280, 260 off the turf. I can't understand all the inconsistencies. So then it cut off there. So what I'd recommend doing is look at your swing on video to see what's going on there. I think a big mistake that often, there's trying to think of what's gonna help you the most. Really, I think what can help you a lot is understanding a few simple things about ball flight and what's going on at impact. Because if you understand the physics and the physical properties and things that are happening at impact, it's not as complex as you think. It can be very complex, but to really help you with understanding what's going on at impact, it's really fairly simple. So the ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. All right, it's always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and that's going to curve away from the club path. So if you're hitting blocks and hooks, your path is probably too much into out. So you probably need to feel like you're swinging more over the top. Now I would look at your swing on video to make sure of this, but that's most likely what's going on there. And when you swing too much into out, you'll often hit the ball thin, because when you swing too much from the inside, that club's bottoming out more in this area. So your club is most likely swinging, it may be even hitting up on the golf ball and shots off the turf, which when you do that, you're going to end up hitting a lot of shots thin. So you're probably swinging too much into out. And then if you understand where strike location can make a difference, hitting it on the toe, hitting it on the heel, and hitting it thin. If you're hitting a lot of shots thin, they're not going to go very far because they're going to have a lot more spin on them. So that may be why you're losing distance on those shots as well. So what I'd recommend doing is look at your swing on video, see what's going on there. If you would like help, like I said, it sounds like you're swinging too much from the inside. I'd probably look at our Never Hook Again course to get you to be swinging more on plane. I'd be checking that out. So to get to that course, click the house icon. That's going to take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage. If you want help, from an instructor, highly recommend, want to send me a video, join my swing reviews, or get on the waiting list. So that way I can help you. But in the meantime, I'd highly recommend get a general understanding of some ball flight laws and things like that. It just goes a long way with understanding what's going on with your golf game. Now, we have a course where we teach you that. It's called the Ball Striking Masterclass. We offer enrollment into this course every month or two. So I don't believe we're going to be doing an enrollment this month, but next month, I think we may do, if you're in a warm weather state, we may send you an email to enroll for that. But yeah, that'd be a great course because we kind of teach you the ball flight laws there. And then if in the meantime, though, TrackMan actually has a fantastic free online course that you can go take. And it's a great teaching. Like they teach you all the ball flight laws and stuff like that. And it gets pretty in depth as well. So highly recommend it. It's called TrackMan University. Just do a quick Google search, TrackMan University. It's 100% free. The last I looked anyway, 100% free. Check it out if you want to learn ball flight laws. Very, very good education there. And it can help you a lot with your game. Because if you see what's going on with your ball flight, it's like, oh, okay, well, I must be doing this. I must be doing this. And then you can look at a video, and then everything starts to kind of make more sense. Whereas in your sense, it seems like you don't really have an understanding of those things. So you just feel kind of lost a little bit. And I totally get that. I have it all the time, with students. A lot of times somebody will think that they're coming over the top. They're really not. It's something else that's going on. But they just know because they slice. They think, well, I'm coming over the top, and that may not always be the case. It could be you're just leaving the face way open. It could be you're hitting the ball way off the heel, and the ball slices every time. So, but yeah, check out. Most likely, you just need to get your path in a better direction. You're too much into out. So check out that Never Hook Again course. I think that's going to help you and get that path much more on plane. And then once you get to where you're hitting it straight, I would actually try to hit draws and fades in straight shots and alternating between those. Because if you, let's say that you're swinging into out, right? I'm swinging into out. I'm too much into out. And now I start swinging more out to in, and it corrected it. But if I keep doing that, then I'm just going to have another problem. I'm just going to start slicing it and pulling it probably. So in order to keep yourself from getting way too far off track, you need to be constantly kind of zeroing that in, right? Zeroing that face, zeroing that path. So that way you never get really, really far off. So that would be hitting draws and hitting fades and hitting straight shots, when you practice, hitting those kinds of shots. So that way you can get a feel for where you're at with it and what you need to correct. But that's what I'd recommend doing for sure. So David Shee says, I can't get comfortable with stable fluid spine at tilt address. I've been in the habit of sliding hips and tilting spine as I start the downswing. Is this okay? Well, it depends on what directions you're sliding and tilting your hips. Generally, I don't like a lot of sliding of the hips, and also your definition of sliding the hips might be different than mine. But basically, what we have to understand is that, it's not always going to be comfortable right off. So if you're used to going like this at address all the time, and then we tell you we want you to get more like this, that's going to be uncomfortable for a while. It's going to get uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable, until you do it enough to become comfortable. You think about anything you've ever really learned or changed, it's always probably felt a little uncomfortable at first because it's not something you're used to, and then it slowly became more comfortable. So I would just give it a chance. But I would say, generally when I see people sliding their hips, they slide their hips a lot this way, and then they get their spine leaning toward the top. I mean, it's fine, but it's usually not going to lead to very good strikes. Because typically, if my spine is angled toward the top, I'm going to generally swing over the top in the downswing, because my shoulder is just going to, my natural feeling of my shoulder is going to be to want to go that way. Whereas if I'm angled away, my shoulder is going to want to work down, and now I can swing that club on plane or slightly from the inside. So I would say in general, sliding of the hips, not good. You'll see typically what you'll see, some players, they'll be at address here, and at the very, very start, they'll start to move their hips, but then they push that hip back right away. So it's not a continual slide. It's basically just a trigger move. They kind of slide just a little bit to start. It's like an inch or two at most, and then they start pushing the hip back. That's fine. If you do that, that's fine. But I don't like to see a slide of the hips, because usually if you slide too much and you keep sliding, I can't rotate. If I'm sliding, I can't rotate. I'm restricting my shoulder turn now, and I'm also getting myself in a position where it's going to be difficult, one, to come down on plane, and two, it's going to be difficult for me to sequence correctly in the downswing. Because if I have my weight moving away from the target as I'm going up to the top, it's going to be hard for me to get my weight shifted to my lead side very, very quickly. We talked about that in the beginning of the office hours. So in general, no, I'm not a big fan of that. It's typically not going to be good. It's not going to lead to good strikes. But a lot of times when you change certain things in your swing, there's a yin and a yang to it, right? So if you're used to kind of sliding and angling toward the target and maybe swinging over the top and hanging back, if you're used to that, and then you go to being angled away and you don't now get a good weight shift to the lead side, and you still kind of hang back, well, you're gonna chunk a lot of shots, right? Because you're gonna be hanging back, and you're not swinging over the top to compensate for that. So if you swing more from the inside, you gotta get that weight shift going forward. But that, all in all, that's all going to be better, because you're going to have more power. You're going to be swinging more on plane. You're going to be hitting the ball more consistently. It's just a matter of getting used to that, getting more comfortable with that. So you probably just need more reps. It's hard to say exactly what you mean by what you're talking about there without seeing your swing, but you probably just need more reps. It's also possible you could be overdoing it a little bit. Maybe you're too far angled away. Generally we want to be about 6 to 8 degrees angled away. That's about where you want to be. If you're like this and you're not real comfortable with it, well, it's because you're overdoing it. So I just take a look at video and see what's going on there. All right. So Braden T says, I want to add what I play with 3 single handicap players. 2 is the best of the 3. All 3 say I have a really beautiful swing. If you see it, you would say something about great tempo. I can't understand why every single swing is different when I feel I'm doing the same things on all swings, but the results are completely different. Pull, hook, beautiful 5-yard draw, slice, block, left chunk. Yeah, so sounds like to me like your path is just way too much from the inside. So I'd look at your swing on video and actually see what's going on there. Golf is a game of millimeters. Like if you're 1 dimple off, it can be a vastly big result. So your swing can look exactly the same from swing to swing, but one can be a block, one can be a fade, what can be, because it's all about the face and path relationship, and then the strike on the face. You can have your face and your path relationship the exact same, and you strike it a ½ inch toward the toe. It's going to be a very different resulting golf shot, right? So, and then you could have the strike location be dead in the center of the face between 2 shots, and your path be the exact same, but the face is 3 degrees open. 3 degrees is not very much, but it makes a huge difference in where the golf ball goes. So it's a game of precision. So things can feel very, very different, or things can feel the exact same, look the exact same, but the result can be vastly different. So, like I said, I would look at your swing on video, see what's going on there. Are you swinging too much from the inside? If you are, which most likely you are, all the misses that you're talking about, thin, push, slice, hook, and then on your good shots, it's a 5-yard draw. what's most likely, and you mentioned chunk, right? Chunk thin. That's all from a path that's way too much from the inside. You're probably swinging 10 degrees from the inside. All right. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Your good shots are probably a little off the heel, and you make good contact. Like you don't hit the ground or you don't hit it thin, but you probably hit it a little bit toward the heel so it doesn't overdraw a ton. Right. So you get that 5-yard draw. Right. Because when you hit the ball on the heel, what tends to happen is the ball will tend to curve left to right or less from right to left. So you're probably hitting those shots, those nice draws where if you hit it in the center of the face, it'll probably draw quite a bit or hook a little bit. Whereas if you hit it in the heel, it would be a nice draw, albeit it won't be as far as a shot could be, but it will at least kind of straighten it out just a little bit. So highly recommend check out that Never Hook Again course. I think that's what you need to get back on track. But like I said, take a look at your swing on video. Feel free to join my Unlimited Swing Reviews. I'd be happy to help you, tell you exactly what's going on, help you, start playing better golf. All right, so Daniel H says, "Hi Q, I'm not getting down on the ball. I'm hitting the top of the ball. I never take a divot. When the ball is teed up, I don't have an issue. What drills can I do to get down on the ball and to take a divot?" So what most likely is going on is you're probably hanging back a little bit and releasing the club early. So the first thing I would do to probably help you get a divot is to get your weight shift moving forward. You got to get your weight shift moving forward. We talk about our compression line, right? So our compression line is a line that goes from our ankle, hip, and shoulder. At impact, we want that to be all in a straight line. We want that to be slightly angled away from the target. Or if you're an early releaser of the club, which a lot of people are, I even like vertical or even leaning toward the target is fine, because that's going to help you get, one, if you're an early releaser, that's going to help you to get a little bit more forward shaft lean if we get our body leaning forward. And then two, it's going to help us get a better ball first contact. Whereas if I hang back a lot, this is often what I see with early releasers is they release the club early, but then they're also back here, right? So it's like they're kind of helping the ball up in the air, and they don't need the help. They're adding plenty of loft to make that happen. So if we get to where we're more like this, now you can see it. Now I've got a little bit more forward shaft lean even, and I'm also able to kind of chop down into the golf ball a little bit. So that's what I recommend doing is get that weight shift more forward. There's a great video that Clay made when the pandemic hit. A lot of people were practicing from home. It's a great indoor kind of work along for ground contact. Clay does this on a mat, but you can do it on the turf or on the mat out at the driving range or whatever you want to do. Highly recommend. I would work on that. That work along video for ground contact. So if you want to find that, if you go to the indoor vault, if you go to the vault categories and you go to the indoor vault section, it's work along number 2, or you can just search work along to find that video as well. So to find all the indoor vault series, go to the instruction tab, select that, and that'll expand a menu. Then select vault categories, then go to the indoor vault, and you'll find all the videos there. They're all at the indoor vault or the vault categories. It's all in alphabetical order, so it should be kind of a third of the way down there. And then if you just want to find that specific video, just search 2 words, work along. In the upper right hand corner, there should be a little search box there. Select that, do the work along or search work along. If you're on a mobile device, select that icon in the upper right hand corner. It's 3 horizontal lines. That'll expand the menu. Scroll down the bottom of the menu. You'll see the search box, search work along from there. But that would be what I'd highly recommend. That's going to help you get your weight shift more forward, so that way you can get that ground contact more in front and start taking a divot. One thing I'd be careful of when working on that, because this is a big mistake that I see a lot of people make, is that they'll start coming over the top to get that divot more in front. So that's just fixing another problem. That's just fixing a problem by creating another problem. We don't want to do that. So make sure that you're still swinging from the inside, right? You want to swing from the inside and get that divot in front. All right, so Janice K says, if I'm trying to work on the move due to being too steep, will my path be in to out? Yes. Yep, so the move shallows the club. Now, I can shallow the club and still swing over the top, but in general, we want to be shallowing out the club, and it's going to be working. That's going to help you make it work more from the inside. So yes, your path will typically be more into out when you start shallowing out the club. Matthew W says, thank you. No problem, Matthew. James B says, can you talk about the arms, right elbow getting stuck on the downswing by the right side hips or core area? This leads to an early release, correct? It can. It doesn't always, but it can. So basically, what being stuck means is where your upper body or your arms get out of sync with your body. So basically, everything kind of gets stuck behind you like this. So you can see how my right elbow kind of gets behind me. And then if I'm like this, what generally people do is they'll kind of stand up and to get the arm, they'll really force the arm back in front of the body, kind of like that. And it can lead to a flip, right? Or a lot of times it doesn't lead to a flip, and you just kind of continue like this, and your path gets working too much into out, a lot of blocks and snap hooks. Or you rotate like crazy and you get that club on plane, which is not typically what you see. If you look at like a Jim Furyk, he looks like he's stuck, but he rotates his body like crazy to be able to get into a good impact position. But a lot of times when people get stuck, it's either they block, they can't rotate enough, so they don't force the club back in front by flipping. They just block it or snap hook it, or they'll push the arm back in front and they'll flip as they're coming through contact. So really the best drill that I know for working on this, because what's happening is that when you go up to the top, right, your elbow, actually your arm in your shoulder starts to internally rotate, right? We want it to externally rotate. That's what's going to help you to shallow out the club and get it into a good position. So if you internally rotate, that gets the elbow going out that way. Now it's behind me, and I'm either going to block it or I'm going to force the arm back in front. I want the arm to go like that as I'm coming down. I need it to externally rotate. See how now I'm getting that club back on plane and I can swing through. So a great drill for this is actually with a ball. It's just this is like a volleyball size kind of ball, maybe a small soccer ball. This is just like a little toy ball that I got like at Target. I think it was $2. But if you just take this ball, it's really, really light. And it's you can kind of push it together, which I like. If you have like a soccer ball or a little mini basketball or something like that, make sure to deflate it a little bit. You want to be able to compress this ball a little bit. I think it's more helpful if you do that, and I'll show you why here in a second. So basically, if I take this ball and I put it right on my elbow joint like that, now if I go up to the top of the swing here, if I get stuck or if I go and internally rotate my shoulder, what's going to happen is I'm going to drop that ball. So if you watch there, and I go like that, I'll drop the ball. So what I would like you to get the sensation of is when you go up to the top, I want you to actually squeeze this ball. That's why I wanted you to have a little less air in it. So that way you can squeeze the ball. And you can see what my shoulder is doing? My shoulder is now externally rotating like I want. And now I'm getting where I'm in good position as I'm coming down. So that's a great drill. Do some practice swings with it. You can actually hit balls doing it. But yeah, I think that's a really good drill to help you from getting stuck and getting the club more out in front. All right, so Dennis W says, a few weeks ago, a light came on and finally realized that I must be sliding my hips. Clay's video where he talked about imagining a string tied to your right back pocket got me to start moving my hips back instead of sliding. I began hitting much better shots off the turf with my irons, which had been my biggest problem. However, I began getting bad pain in my knee after doing this move. Have you seen this problem before? No, not really. that'd be something I would recommend talking to your doctor about. So it sounds like what Dennis is talking about is he used to, or he's not sure. This is part of the reason why I recommend that you look at your swing on video to see what's going on. I mean, that's just not you, it's everybody. Everybody needs to look at their swing on video. Because a lot of times, this is a lot of what I hear is, I feel like I'm doing this. I think I'm doing this. Well, there's an easy way to know, right? I know it can be a pain in the butt, but honestly, after you've done it a few times, it's so easy just to set it up. Really, I have a tripod. I use this. It's just it's a tripod. I put it on there. It's got a little attachment on there, and then I put my phone. I mean, I got this on Amazon. I think it might have been $10 at most. Then I just put my phone in there. You just tighten this down on your phone. It sits on the tripod, and then you can video your swing. This one's kind of cool. You can actually turn it, and there's all kinds of things that you can do. And they come in handy too. We use it to take family pictures and stuff too. With our phone. So it's not just for golf, but you can use this for about anything. There's also selfie golf that you can use too. I'm not a big fan. I like the selfie. I love the idea of selfie golf. The only problem with selfie golf is that when you attach it to an alignment stick, that alignment, if you don't have that alignment stick attached to something else to keep it stable, it kind of goes like this. It's like you're watching your swing on the ocean, right? Like you're in a ship. So that's the only reason why I'm not a huge fan of that. And I like to use that better because it goes on a tripod. Tripod's very stable. Again, you can get tripods for $10 on Amazon. Foldable ones, they fit right into your bag. That's what I recommend using. So film your swing, folks. If you're serious about improving your golf game, you got to look at your swing on video. I know we don't like looking at our swings sometimes, because we're our worst critics. We just don't like what we see. But if you're interested in getting better, you got to do it. You can't. Feel is often not real, so you can't base everything that you're feeling on there. Now, some players, if you want to base everything on ball flight and correcting that, that's fine. Yeah, you can do that, and you're someone who doesn't, because there's some players that are like that. Like Gary Woodland, I know that he is not a look at your swing on video guy. He is a ball flight trying to change that, and that's a completely fine way to go. But it has its limitations, right? So if you're doing something in your swing that's not allowing you to achieve your ball flight and you can't figure it out, you got to look on video and see what's going on there. But yeah, so if you're working on the Top Speed Golf system, you got to look at your swing on video because, I don't know. I have tons of students, pretty much every single student that comes to me in the swing reviews, I'll ask them like, hey, what have you worked on? Have you worked on the Top Speed Golf system? And they'll say that they've gone through the whole system. Well, they haven't really gone through it because their swing does not match, the Top Speed Golf system. So they haven't really gone through it. And I think a big reason why is because they're going through it without feedback. They're not really doing the tests at the end where we're telling you need to do this many reps and you need to look at your swing on video and this is what you need to look for. Because if you were, we would see the difference. But I just don't think people are doing that. So make sure that you're looking at your swing on video, folks. But as far as the knee problem is concerned, again, I would look at your swing on video, see what's going on there. You may be putting some torque on the knee. So you may be used to kind of going like this and sliding, whereas now you're kind of pushing your hips back. So what I'd recommend doing is, one, I'd flare out the legs to make it easier so that your knee isn't torquing as much. So you may have been like this and sliding before, and now you're kind of going like this and putting some torque, some pressure on your knees. Whereas if you open your legs up, now you're not turning or torquing on your knees as much. That'd be the first thing. Then the other thing is I would let your feet free up. Don't try to keep your feet planted in the ground. Let your lead heel come off the ground in the backswing. Let your trail heel come off the ground in the follow through. A lot of times I see people who tell me their ankles hurt, their knees hurt, and things like that. And I look at their swing and they're trying to keep everything, their legs kind of rooted in the ground. Well, if you do that, you're going to be putting a lot of torque and stuff on your legs. So on your knees and in your joints and stuff like that. So let your heels free up. So that way, let your heel come off the ground and let it come off the ground there so that you can come all the way around, not putting that stress on those knees and ankles that isn't needed. So Jaco says, what does it mean when I chunk the ball and push it right when I try to create lag and get the hands forward? It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but it sounds like you're swinging too much into out, right? So if you push it to the right, that's a product of the face being open and the path being in the direction of that face. And if you chunk it, that's also a product of swinging too much out to the right. So you're probably just swinging too much to the right when you're trying to get that lag. And I would try to feel like you're swinging more. This is where I call fault feel real, right? So the fault is when you're trying to get lag, you swing too much into out, and you either, when you make a connection with the golf ball, you push it to the right, or if you don't make a connection with the golf ball, you're hitting the ground before. So the feel is that when you're trying to get lag, I would try to feel like you're swinging over the top, right? And I try to feel like you're swinging to the left and you're hitting the ground more in front of the golf ball. The real, hopefully, is going to be that you're swinging more on plane and you're making ground contact at the golf ball, and to correct that. So that's what I'd recommend doing, but it's hard to say without seeing your swing. Pierre G says, how do I cancel my membership? You can cancel your membership by going to your account. So if you go to the top right-hand corner of the page, I think it's in the top right-hand corner, it should say account right there. If you click that, you can that'll take you to the account page where you can cancel. You can always contact our support team, support@topspeedgolf.com, and they can take care of it for you as well. All right, so Thomas C says, last week you demonstrated turning the doorknob to shallow the club. When you take it the step forward to show how turning the doorknob closes the club face once the club is shallow. So turning the doorknob is not closing the club face. Turning the doorknob is just getting the club more on plane. The closing of the club face comes from this right here. So, I mean, I guess you can call that turning the doorknob. I would call this more twisting the handle. So turning the doorknob, imagine if you're going to open a door, right? You're doing it with the rotation of your forearms, right? You're not doing it like that with your wrists. It's the rotation of your forearms. And that's what you're doing. That's what's shallowing the club. Taking the club from steep to shallow. So that's the forearm rotation. What closes the face, and this is what Clay talks about in the move course, is the twisting of the handle. So if you look at Dustin Johnson at the top, right? FedEx Cup champ, $15 million man. If you look at him at the top, he's like this. So he's already got that face slammed shut. John Rahm, same thing. He's down here, but he's got that club in a very unturned manner. Daniel Berger, Morikawa, Colin Morikawa, if you think about Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, all these guys are doing this. They're all turning this handle as they're coming down. Now, it doesn't take a ton, right? Dustin Johnson actually overdoes it at the top, and then he actually kind of opens the face as he's coming down. He's going from extremely closed to opening, and that gets him square at contact. Whereas some players will have the face, they'll be square at the top, and then they close it, and then they open it a little bit into impact. The main thing is getting to impact with a square club face. Some players you're going to see there's not a lot of anything. The wrist is fairly flat, and they don't do any of that. They just kind of keep it there all the way into impact. Or they get kind of down here, and they start to close it a little bit more as they release it into the golf ball. So everybody's a little bit different, but that's what's closing the club face. So that's what's squaring it up early, is this turning of the handle. That's this throttling motion. So with the lead wrist, some people call it bowing. This is really what's called wrist flexion, where you're bending your wrist so that your palm of your hand's going down toward your elbow. And then the trail wrist is what's called wrist extension, where you're bending your wrist back so that the knuckles are back toward your elbow. You put those together, and that's that Dustin Johnson move, right? That's that close. If you look at my club face, you can see how it changes directions. It went from pointing that way to now pointing more up the sky. And that's getting that club face nice and closed, so when I come into contact, I don't have to roll over the face to square it up. I can just keep rotating into contact and allow me to get my body rotated so that I can release the club more out front and get forward shaft length. But yeah, that's all the move course. If you want to learn this stuff, it's the move. It's all explained in great detail in there, and the drills to actually make it happen in your swing are there too. So if you're interested in working on the move, that's the shallowing of the club, that's the squaring of the face earlier, so the turning of the doorknob, and then the twisting of the handle. That's all on the move course. The tennis racket drill is a really good one drill in there, so check that out. To go to the move, click the house icon. That'll take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website, 20 some plus courses. Select the move and get started on the drills. All right, so Larry S says, I'm having issues always on the toe with my irons. Any suggestions? Yeah, this may seem trivial, but try to hit it off the heel. That's really what it comes down to. Again, this is a fault, feel, real kind of thing, right? So if the fault is to always hit it off the toe, then the feel should be to hit it on the heel, and then that will move the strike more closer to the center of the face. Now, let's say you still hit it in the toe. Well, that means you just need to exaggerate it more, right? You need to exaggerate it even more to get that strike more in the center of the face. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You can't, what you're going to do is going to feel pretty uncomfortable. So you just got to let it go at first. I recommend kind of working it out on the range. But once you start feeling like you're hitting in the heel and you feel that nice solid contact on the center of the face, then it starts to feel a little bit more comfortable, right? So that's what I'd recommend doing. Use some foot powder spray. Use the dot method. Dot method is when you just take like a dry erase washable marker, put a dot on the golf ball, and then fill like a dimple up with the dry erase ink, and then set that ball up to where it'll rub off on the face, and you'll see clearly where you strike the ball on the face. I recommend that method for irons. For a driver, I like the foot powder method because a lot of the drivers nowadays, the metal on them is dark, so it's hard to see the dots. Whereas most people's irons are, if you have dark metal irons, I'd recommend probably the foot powder spray as well. But if you have chrome irons, that's the best. That's usually what people have. But that's what I'd recommend is the dot method. I like it because you can see a dispersion on the face. Like you hit a few shots, and you can see kind of where all your dots are. That's why. And if you use like a dry erase washable marker, you just take a wet cloth and just wipe it right off the face. Whereas with the foot powder spray with irons, since you're taking a divot, sometimes it'll wipe off. And you won't be able to see anything. Obviously, with a driver, you're not hitting the ground, hopefully, so you're not getting that wipe off. But yeah, it's a little bit more messy too. So that's why I prefer the dot method. So that's what I'd recommend doing. But yeah, adjust your feel to get the desired result that you want. Now, if you actually start hitting the ball on the heel, that's great. That means that you've made change. Now, I would just ease off of that feeling a little bit to get it more in the center of the face. Now, once you can actually make that change, what I would do to get a better sense, feel, and awareness of where the center of the face is, I would do some variable and differential training. This is what I do with my students. If they're having contact issues, we've made a look at some things in their swing, but a lot of times it's just feel. It's just having an awareness of the face. If there's something specific, like it's possible you could be doing something in your swing that's causing a toe strike, like an over the top can cause a toe strike because the club's kind of working to the left through contact, so the toes kind of moving toward the golf ball. If that's what's going on in your swing, but over the top can cause all kinds of strike issues. Not just that, you could be standing too far away from it. I mean, you could try standing a little bit closer, but really the best thing you can do is just try to adjust your feel to get the desired result that you want. Then do some variable differential practice. So what that would be is what I would do is I would alternate to do some variability training. I would alternate hitting balls in the center, heel, and toe of the face. So I would start out first. I just want to get one dead center. And I would do something that's called win, pass, lose, stay. So what that means is if I am successful, if I'm going for the center of the face, I'm using my foot powder spray or whatever, I'm going for the center of the face. If I hit it in the center of the face, I'm pass. I go on to the next task. If I don't, I have to try again. And what I would do is I would keep track of how many it takes. So let's say I hit The first one, I'm trying to hit in the center of the face. The first one off the toe. The second one, I overcompensated, got it in the heel. And then the third one, I got it in the center of the face. Now I got 3 attempts. All right. So now I'm going to go on to the toe strike. So I'm going to line up dead center the way I normally would, and then I'm going to try and hit it off the toe. So let's say it took me two tries to get it in the toe. Now I'm going to go to the heel. And in the heel strike, the first try, again, I'm lining it up in the center. I'm not lining it up in the heel and the toe in the center. I'm lining it up in the center every time, and I'm changing where I'm striking in the face. So I lined it up in the center. I got it in the heel. Took me 1 try. So now I have 6 total. I'm going to try and beat that on my next time. I'm going to go through it again. I'm going to try and beat my number of 6, right? Go through this process again. Once I get 3 out of 3, now what I can do is I can try to make it a little bit more difficult, make that tighter. You know, initially anything off the toe was good. Anything off the heel counted for heel, and anything that was pretty close to the center of the face counted for center. Now I would start to make it a little bit smaller. You know, maybe ½ inch toward the toe would count as a toe. ½ inch toward the heel will count as a heel. And for a center strike, it would have to be pretty much dead center for it to count, right? So then I would go through that. So that's the variable practice. Differential would be, or I would actually line up to the golf ball way on the toe and hit it in the center. And then I would go to the heel, line it up in the heel, then try to hit it in the center. And then I would try to line it up in the center and hit it in the center. Again, I'm counting how many reps it takes. Once I get to where I do perfect with it, then I got to make it more difficult. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, that's easy, you're going to plateau. You're going to get a little bit better. But if you keep, imagine a weightlifter, right? So a weightlifter, he got to where he could finally do a certain weight, and then that's all he did forever. Well, he's not going to keep getting stronger. He or she's going to start, plateauing. They're not going to get as strong. They may not get stronger at all by putting a lot of work in. You got to keep making it more difficult. So that's one of the principles to getting better is, making your practice increasingly more difficult. Once you get to a certain ability level, you got to make it more difficult. So that's what I'd recommend doing for training that strike location. All right, let's get a few more questions here. So Lee P says, is there a rule or feeling for consistent grip pressure, firm or loose? The rule that I would go by is I would hold the club as tightly as you need to be able to, or as loosely as you need to be able to control it and hold on to it, right? And that's going to happen naturally throughout the swing. You don't want to intentionally try to really loosen the grip because you'll lose control of it. And you don't want to intentionally put too much pressure into the grip because then you're going to have a hard time, getting some lag and things like that. So you want to hold it as loosely as you can to still be able to control it and hold on to it, right? So if I hold it too loosely, it may come flying out of my hand if I swing in the downswing. The grip has to change throughout the swing as the pressure and the speed builds up. So at address, I can have a super light grip and it would be fine. But as I start the swing, I have to put a little bit more pressure into the handle, into the grip in order to hold on to it. And then as I start the downswing, as I'm getting in here, I got to put a lot of pressure into the handle to be able to hold on to it. Otherwise, it's going to go flying out of my hand. So that's really the general rule, is just light enough pressure to be able to control it and hold on to it. So James P says, thanks for the never slice again recommendation. I really want to own the inside to out path. Yeah, no problem. James P says, so you are turning the doorknob with both hands. Yes, they have to work together. I can't turn the doorknob with this hand if my left hand is turning the doorknob to the other way. It's not going to go anywhere. So that they have to work together to make that happen. Yes. James B says, do you know of a good way to determine proper putter length? Yeah, I think basically the way that I'm not a putter fitter or a club fitter by any means, but the way that most putter fitters, or what I've seen them say, is to just, without a putter at all, I would get into what would be a very comfortable position, whatever feels comfortable for you. So right now I would say, this right here, this feels very comfortable for me. And what they'll do is once you get into that position, they'll hand you a putter, right? So if I get into that position, right? So I just get into what's comfortable for me. So I'm just going to get what feels very, very comfortable for me. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to grab this putter, and then I'm going to put the putter down. All right. So for me, that's what feels very, very comfortable for me. There's no, you can have a longer, if you prefer being more upright like this, right? If that feels more comfortable for you, there's no right or wrong way. I mean, that's fine. If you like to be more bent over, like this feels comfortable for you, then, that's where you should be. So it's really personal preference, but that's generally what they say is just get into what feels comfortable for you. Here's a putter. That's where you should be. Now for me, I've always played a fairly short putter, 33-inch putter. But I have pretty long arms. I have long arms compared to my height. So that's probably the biggest reason why. So Jake says, appreciate the help, Q. No problem. All right. So looks like that was all the questions. All right. So thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all next time.